Welcome everyone to another episode of Big Brain MMA podcast, episode 37, UFC Fight Night, Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. I'm your host, BigSteve. Got old mate Scrap back again. It feels like an eternity that we haven't done a podcast together. Ella, mate, how are you? You excited for this glorified LFA card?
Can't say that I am, to be honest. Pretty brutal post-pay-per-view hangover of a fight night card, but hopefully some bets.
That's it. That's the spirit. It's in the spirit of Big Brain. I really wanted to do this with you. That's why we did this so late. Just hopefully the two of us can come up with at least one or two good plays. You know, that's all we need really for a profitable night. We got Ron Blair in here. It didn't even take that long. Hell yeah, my cappy's back. Nice early heads up for the show. No worries, mate. I moved it just for him, mate. Just for him and just for you. I knew you would have been heartbroken. So there you go. Cool. Like to subscribe if you haven't. A quick little review from last week. A lot of cards. I was very trigger happy. I'm not sure if it's because I had a coffee for the first time in 3 months, but I ended up with a billion plays on Cage Warriors. Pretty much hit every single dog I played. Capera, Judo Jim, what a legend, and went up to $3.50. Bertic against Abi, and then I had a little parlay with Gittins and Hendon, which they both cashed in round one for plus money, so that was beautiful. If only England didn't shit the bed, I had England in the parlay as well. It would have been one of the bigger nights in a while for me. And that covered me. I lost a little bit of Hoy on KSW, lost in 20 seconds, very annoying. Would have loved to see that fight play out. In terms of the pay-per-view, started the night great with Olberg. Dropped the ball. Choi dropped the ball. I remember saying, you know, his defense is not the best, but I kind of forced that one, paid the price. And then what else? I got out of my hole by just doubling down on the finish in the Span fight. That was no sweat whatsoever. Poor Dominic Reyes. Feel bad for the guy. And then obviously added even more to my profits with Dan Hooker. I had 2 units reduced to 1. I just knew he would get himself in an E-bar, which he did. And I thought there was a bit of ligament damage when he got up and was like wobbling a bit. In the end, he got a KO. Clear value. The whole world was on him. And it was one of those ones where just the most obvious thing happened, right? He was just a step up above. And then lost my profits on the Edgar start round 3, which I really hated. I hated that bet. I said that was my second favorite bet on the podcast. And as the week went on, I saw how fragile Frankie looks at the weigh-ins and just looked like an old man. I was like, oh no, this. As soon as the first combination was thrown and Frankie ate like a 3-piece combo and a spinning back fist, I'm like, oh, dude, this is not even going out of round 1. So annoying to lose my profits that I earned, you know, through Hooker and whatnot, and then put a lot of money on the fight to finish in the main event. I just thought Izzy was live for a finish. I thought Paul Time was live for a finish. It looked dead in the water, and then Paul Time comes through, and there were 7 of us watching together, and we've never celebrated. It was like a World Cup final. We were just jumping around. Some of them were on Paul Time. I was on the finish, and I hate Izzy as well. So small profit on UFC, okay profit on Cage Warriors. So I'll take what I can get. It was a good. I was on a high. I was on a high for 3 weeks, for 3 days. Pardon me. After that, so call me a hater, but I'm happy. How'd you go, mate?
Yeah, all right. I mean, I had a lot of the same Cage Warriors plays as you. I didn't play all the same dogs, but yeah, came through with like Giddens, Hendon. I'm a bit annoyed. I had Chuck Campbell and I switched to the over 1.5, and he ended up just like booping him out of nowhere at the end of the first round. So that was pretty annoying, but I still feel like it was the right move to like make that switch because he wasn't looking good at the time of the finish. So just what can you do? 205ers, they hit hard. And then on the UFC, yeah, again, like we talked about, a lot of the same players. I was on Ulberg, that came in, then had a bit of a small loss on Ars, which was annoying because he just, didn't really give himself much of a chance to win. But, you know, that we kind of know that about him. That wasn't anything new. Lost as well on Troy. That was disappointing. He's just, he's really like taken a big step down in my like power rankings. You know, he just hasn't developed at all since he's got to the UFC. He's just the same fighter who goes in there. And I think guys kind of have him figured out now. So, yeah, he's probably going to be more of a fade going forward. One on KK, which was nice. That was one that I was like reasonably confident in after tape, and I think she ended up like covering and looking more of a favorite without even getting much of the grappling going. If she was able to get like Silvana on the mat, I think she would have even looked more dominant, so I was happy with that. One on Frivola, I was on him for multiple units, so that was good. Thurman shit the bed, just classic Thurman stuff, just getting stuck on bottom, no IQ. Blanchfield easy win, that's one I was pretty confident in. You know, like a lot of people were saying, oh, don't lay the juice and stuff, but I was pretty confident she was going to run through Molly. I had her in a parlay. And at Ash, the next leg in the next fight, the 2.5 raise span, should have been on the span props heavier. I only had like a little bit of the early span props. In hindsight, obviously, that was most likely his best path to victory, and he hit it. And Reyes is just, who knows what's happened to that guy, poor fella. Lost on Brad, and then obviously after the fight comes out that he's pretty much stepping away from the game until he feels the fire come back. So bad bet. You kind of saw it in the Turner fight, same thing. He's just like not really there mentally in the first round. Like he kind of really needs to get revved up and get going. He doesn't almost get going until like the third round of fights. So pre-betting him probably not a very good call there. I think I'll admit there was a bit of my bias probably playing into that. But then Dan obviously shipped it, which was cool. I was pretty heavy on him. Puey's just what a fraud. Really nice to finally see him exposed for the jobber that he is. I lost on the GTD in the Frankie fight, but I had some Gutierrez, no scorecards, so ended up just breaking even. Had Chandler decision, was looking pretty plus EV for like a plus 700, 1-1 going into the third. All he probably needed was another takedown, and he could ride out the round on top, same as he did for the second. But Chandler doing Chandler things just goes for an unnecessarily, exaggerated takedown, trying to pick him up over his head and slam him down, and that allows Dustin to scramble and get to his back and choke him out. So just classic Michael Chandler. The guy's an idiot. He's only got one gear. He doesn't know how to fight like smart. He just always just trying to do like the most explosive, extravagant thing that he can. So I still feel fine about the bet just because the grappling upside was obviously there. Had no action on the Whaley fight, and then unfortunately lost on Izzy in the main event. Was 3-1 on the scorecards, so he was locked in for a win barring a finish, and he just got too cute. Good job by Pereira to make him pay for that bad habit he has of like coasting on a lead and being too happy, backing up, putting his back on the fence and like slipping shots with his hands down. If you're like a long reigning champion and you're up, you should be really trying to step on guys' necks in that situation, not try to just back off and let a huge puncher come onto you like that and like pin you down on the fence. So good job by Pereira, man. I thought he was cooked at like multiple points in the fight. I added live on Izzy, which compounded the loss a bit. But I don't know if I could say I'd make the bet again now seeing them fight 3 times, but at the time I was fine with it because he was a huge favorite live. He was up 3-1 in any time where you get because I think I got almost pick him on Izzy after round 2 when it was 1-1. So anytime you get pick him and then the guy blows out to like a minus 2,000 favorite, whatever he was live, most of the time you've made a decent bet. So ended up down a bit on the week because of hinging on that main event with Izzy. So that was a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is.
It is what it is indeed, my friend. Shit happens. On to the next. I would have been down too if I didn't get that the 5th round rally by Porton. So let's get into it, mate. Let's get into it. That was a nice and extensive review. First fight of the night, Bleda versus Natalia Silva. I'll get us going and do the next one, and then you can take it away. So the first fight I taped. By the way, in the chat, if you're listening, there's 10 of yous. It's quite a lot. Let us know if the mic's sounding good or sounding bad. We're trying to adjust it this week. First fight I taped. Obviously, I tried to fade Turcios Bleda in her contender series fight. Obviously, just because she was just a massive favorite, and she was 19 years of age. Not because I was impressed by her opponent by any stretch of the imagination. You just we see it over and over again. Massive juiced favorites, especially young girls making debuts in UFC contender, usually drop the ball. And she was obviously in the second round when her opponent Maia took her down. I was like, this is beautiful. Like, I'm a genius. And then Maia stood up for some reason, and then Bleda took her down. And it's like, if you wanted to fight on the ground, why did you stand up when you took her down? Like, Bleda is not going to do that. And, you know, these are the things you pay for when you play massive underdogs. They're massive underdogs for a reason. But I played only $100. So obviously, I already didn't have too much of a high expectation of Bleda. Obviously, she's 19, and I was impressed. She's a big girl. I get got good decent takedowns for a young girl. She's 5'9", which is my height. She's quite tall. Yeah, she's good on top, good ground and pound. But yeah, she's a bit slow. And I remember taping her for that Contender Series fight, thinking she's a bit hittable. She's she gives the illusion that she's a good striker. Bounces around, kind of like sets up her strikes. But the naked kicks, they're telegraphed, right? You can fool the low-level opponents, but as soon as I watch it on tape, I'm like, oh, she's live to get countered, right? Obviously, Maia's not going to do that on the Contender Series, but in terms of that, Natalia Silva is someone that will do that. I mean, Natalia Silva came off a layoff against Jasmine Jazz the Vicious and just kicked the crap out of her. Just a lot more faster, dynamic, a little buzzsaw with her kicks. A lot of people saying, you don't see that on tape before her layoff, but there is one fight right before the UFC. It was a four-round title fight, and she did actually look as close as her UFC debut there. Every time she got clinched up, she got her own takedowns, just like she did against Jasmine. Got on top, didn't really play off the bottom much, and then obviously got an armbar from Mount in round 4 when she tied her opponent out. So, yeah, she's obviously improving. I think she's more in her prime than Bleda. I think Bleda still has a lot of holes. I did actually play Silva as soon as I taped it. As I was taping it, the Jasmine fight just kind of seemed like I was watching another version of Bleda, like a slow, big girl that's slow, plotting, and looking for that body lock takedown. Obviously, the big difference is Bleda is actually better at shooting it on the legs, and she's good at timing those double legs. So I did see a couple of, Jasmine did shoot a couple of times on Silva's leg, but Silva's balance is so good and her hips are so good. She was just throwing her away with hip thrusts and reversing her. Like I said, the girl's obviously come a long way in terms of physicality. She's a lot more ripped now. But, I'm not saying, I am assuming the Bleda can still get takedowns here. You can never assume that the favorite is going to, perform to the best. But, I mean, what I've seen from Bleda on tape is, she's getting reversed. She got reversed in Contender Series when the chick on the bottom went for a heel hook. She's always on top, losing top position. And I have a sneaky suspicion Silva has really good jiu-jitsu. Not sneaky suspicion. I mean, I've seen it on tape, but it's obviously a low-level opponent. She got her purple belt in March. So I just assume she's a purple belt still. But she's on the regional, she has a really good armbar. She doesn't stay on bottom much. Obviously, she was pulling guard against Marina Rodriguez a lot, which is a red flag. But the good thing is in the UFC debut, she did not want to be on bottom at all, right? She kept stuffing takedowns. If she was a guard puller, you tend to see a lot of these girls don't hesitate to go to the ground. She did not want to be on the ground, which shows me, good IQ. Obviously, she knows Bleda's going to do the exact same game plan, so I assume she's not going to want to go to the ground here either, and she's going to piece her up on the feet. So, yeah, like I said, I laid juice on Bleda, Natalia Silva. Annoyingly, the line moved the other way, which doesn't usually happen to me. I do have a little bit of cold feet, after just looking into it more. Monday is usually the day that I just cram heaps of tape, first day of the week. And then as the week goes on, I'd sometimes double tape, look at more opinions, look at amateur fights. And I'm seeing, maybe Bleda can get takedowns here. Maybe she doesn't cover the line. But I have a sneaky suspicion Silva actually subs her, right? Bleda puts her head in a lot of guillotines. And I don't know how she's got away with it this far. But I think Silva can armbar her. I think Silva can reverse her, get on top. I think Silva can guillotine her. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to stick to what I see. I think the speed is a big advantage here. Even if Silva doesn't perform to her best and ends up on bottom, I think she can get up, get reversals, kick the shit out of Bleda. I think she's just green. I get that she's also 20 herself, but she's looking better when she was younger. Like, the Contender Series fight was disappointing. The couple of fights against low-level women before the Contender Series fights were disappointing. People are talking about her amateur fights against Small Liado girl and the other chick that just signed to the UFC. I forgot her name. The fought Wu Nayan. And there were custom rules fights. It was just a wrestling match. She gets a takedown, the ref stands him up. It's like, but if she gets a takedown on Silva, she's getting swept. All right. And then when Bleda got taken down, the ref stops and stands him up. So the fight doesn't really play out there. She's got good wrestling, we know that. So yeah, I'm on Silva, and I'm looking at Silva sneaky little submission prop. I haven't looked at it yet, but yeah. What about you, mate?
Yeah, man, you pretty much covered everything that I would say. I'm also on Silva at minus 140. I got on early, and then it kind of blew out a bit, and now it's actually almost come back to where I bet it, which is kind of surprising, to be honest. But I was kind of like you. The arc I went, like initially, I was like, oh, this is a great spot on Silva. Then I kind of did some more tape, and I was starting to get a bit of cold feet. But in the end, like, I'm deciding to ride it, just because I agree, like, even if Bleda sort of gets a game going, which would be the takedowns and getting some top time, she's super live to get submitted. Maia was throwing up subs from the bottom on her, had like some leg entries and stuff. And Maia's small, terrible, awful IQ, no athleticism. So, to address that comment, I would say the finish equity is pretty much all on Silva, like, unless Bleda somehow can gas her out or something in positional TKO or just a random sub, who knows, but I would favor the finish to come from Silva pretty heavily. And I think Bleda will be trying to shoot, obviously, because on the feet, like the striking, the speed, the lateral movement of Silva is just going to be way too much for her. Like Maia was landing on her no issues. She's got pretty terrible defense, super hittable, as you said, so I think she's going to have to try and get the takedowns going, and she'll probably be able to like find the clinch in the small cage. Women just generally always end up in the clinch grappling somehow. But like you said, I kind of think Jazz Divisius is like a bit of a better version than Bleda. Bleda does shoot on the legs better, as you said, which makes a big difference in women's MMA. But like Jasmine's got better striking at distance. She's got better striking in the clinch. She might even be better on top, just because Bleda on top is super messy, as you said. She makes a lot of mistakes and puts her head in her arms in a lot of bad spots. So I like Silva here. She could outstrike her to a decision. Knockout, not even out of the question, but also very live to sub on the mat as well. So I like Silva.
Nice. Starting off the podcast with a bet and on the same page. That's what I like to hear. All right. Next fight, we got Brady Haystand versus Fernie Garcia. Another bet for me, which I didn't expect. I've been tossing and turning between this bet. I played Brady at the earlier line. Again, it was just another whole, arc of no value here. Brady's hittable, is a bit sloppy. Fernie's a good boxer at least, and he gets up. To now, I'm coming around on my second point of taping to thinking, you know what? He's just Fernie's so underwhelming, right? Like he also has bad cardio, just like Brady. But I've seen Brady push through. Brady can push through. You feel like he's going to get a takedown early in round one at a pretty high clip. Jordan Newsom got a takedown, I think 2 out of 4 takedowns that he attempted on Garcia. Obviously, Garcia got up each time. He doesn't really spend too much time on his back. He does work his way up. But in terms of getting up, he does gives his back, which, I mean, Brady's going to jump all over that, right? He's just waiting. He's a good back taker. He's just waiting for you to give your back up. Obviously, all the finishing upside at that point, if he gets, rear naked choke, round one, rear naked choke. And then after that, he is hittable. He is a boxer. He's got bad defense, Brady, and he doesn't get dropped a lot. It's worrying getting dropped by Turcios, getting the crap kicked out of him by Josh Rettenhouse in the house. But then it's just what he does in round 3. He comes out, he grits it out, and he just wins the fight. All right, and obviously it's come out that he didn't have an ACL for all of Ultimate Fighter and his debut in the UFC. So I'm expecting a little bit of improvement, right? But I try not to cap that into my taping. I just look at the guy as he is. Obviously, I rewatched that fight again with Chad Ellinger in where he got knocked out in round 3. That was 2019. He was 20 years of age, right? He gets busted up straight away by Chad, and Chad was 32 years old in his prime, right before Contender Series. And he just busted him up, and then Brady came back, took him down, wobbled him a few times, had his back in round 2, so he was winning the fight as a 20-year-old against Chad that ended up in the UFC. And Chad's decent. I know I've faded him a few times, and you have as well, but he's an experienced, good striker with cardio, and he'll be there, unless he's got a good anti-wrestling style. And then Brady ducked into an uppercut, got knocked out. I just think Fernie is just so underwhelming. I can't see him implementing a game plan where he wins a 30-27 by stuffing takedowns and outboxing Brady when he can't even do that on the regionals against low-level opponents, right? He's got a boxing advantage over low-level opponents, and he still ends up in split decisions because as he gets more tired, as he gets more sloppy, fights turn into brawls and they become close. And now you've got takedowns, you've got back takes, you've got the pressure from Brady. It's like, how is Fernie going to differentiate himself from someone like Brady unless he knocks him out? Right? He's just, every time he goes to throw, every time he wobbles Brady, he's going to defend the takedown, and then he's going to end up on his back, or he's going to get his back taken. It's a sweaty one. It's a sweaty one just because I don't like Brady's tendencies to get hit and wobble and slow down and not really pace himself. And his control's not the best either. But it's a bit of a fade on Fernie. I mean, you know, he easily got shut down by Newsom after a slow round one. It's too one-dimensional for me. And I mean, his last loss before Fernie was Cody Freeman. Cody Freeman decided to wrestle in rounds 2 or 3, easily won a decision. Ryan Hayes, you know, a 9-6 guy, started to take him down in round 3 with ease. It's just, yeah, if this gets to round 3, I think Brady's going to have a lot more in the tank. And even if it's 1-1, you know, I'll be way more comfortable with money behind Brady. And also, like, fighters like Josh Rettenhouse, he's like 16-6. That guy's very experienced. He's made his bones on the Russian regional scene. He's got one-punch KO power, much better grappling, and, you know, Brady just outgrinded him with 1 ACL on the Ultimate Fighter. So, yeah, it's a bit juicy. I got the early line, $1.70. But, yeah, it's just Brady for me. I think upon second retape, I think I'll just keep it. It can be a hindsight, really easy bet. What about you?
Sorry, just find the mute button. Yeah, I agree, man. I'll try not to like go too long on this one because, again, I pretty much agree with what you said. I was umming and ahhing at the early line, and then it moved, and I was a bit annoyed. I realized I probably should have hit Brady. Because, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I just think he's going to be able to get the grappling going. He's hittable, but he's tough, and Fernie's like not much of a finisher. I think he's only got that like 1 KO finish. And yeah, man, like, it's honestly like Fernie's so fadeable. The guy sucks. Like he's so bad. He's so terrible. Like that Newsom bet as an underdog was like glorious. Like, loved that play. And I thought Journey actually fought pretty badly there and still won, like, clearly, like 230-27s and a 29-28, I believe. Despite spending a lot of the fight just throwing like random wheel kicks and side kicks and shit like that. Brady's tough, so yeah, Vader shoes on the feet, he's a bit hittable, right, like you said. But I think it's fair to assume he's improved a little bit in his time off and obviously getting his ACL sorted. He's probably still going to be the inferior striker, but it doesn't really matter. He just really wants to get forward into the grappling, and I just don't think Fernie's going to be able to keep him off. Fernie showed some okay get-ups, though, against Journey. He defended the back all right a few times, but Journey's short and he's got, like, stumpy little legs. So I think it was quite easy for Fernie to clear the hooks and get up. I think Brady will be a lot stickier and be able to sort of wrap him up and control positions a lot better. And then, like, going into tape, I thought of, for some reason in my mind, I had it that, like, Brady was quite gassy. But, man, I was really impressed. Like, round 3 in the Turcios fight, he's still going for it. He's still hitting takedowns, controlling him, and like to get hit as much as that dude does and still have gas is like pretty impressive, because like when you absorb the amount of strikes that he did in that fight, that is something that like massively tires you out. But he was still grinding in the 3rd round, hitting takedowns. Turcios obviously just a really good scrambler with his jiu-jitsu. Haven't seen that level of jiu-jitsu out of Fernie. Like, so I think if he gets taken down, I'm not sure if he has like the guard work to sort of create space and start scrambling up like Ricky was doing. So, yeah, I think it's Brady or pass. Personally, I have no interest in betting on Fernie Garcia. I think he'll be out of the UFC in pretty short order, to be honest.
Yep, and the 1 KO he got over Joshua Weems, of all people, that Brady's not getting hit and falling down and covering up. I mean, like you said yourself, this guy doesn't stop coming, man. He will eat punishment and he will keep coming. So, yeah, on the same page, and this could be a really good live bet too. You know, maybe Fernie has some success, you know, bloodies him up. Everyone bloodies up Brady, which is a little bit annoying, concerning. You know, bloodies him up, and then, you know, maybe 1-1, and you just know Brady's going to come out there and just fight for your money in round 3, which Fernie won't. Fernie's fighting for the money. He's just backing up and throwing combinations. So, yeah, we took a lot more time on these last 2 fights, but I think the next lot of fights, for me, I've got nothing to say. So, Maria Oliveira versus Demopolous. I'll let you take it away, mate.
Oh, man, this is not a fight that I have strong thoughts on, to be honest. I've done minimal tape on this one. Pretty much the only angle that I was looking at when lines came out was Demopolous no scorecards, and it was massively juiced. Like, by the time I saw it, it was like minus 250, 260 or something horrible like that, and you can't play that on Demopolous just because of how hittable she is, should be pretty binary, I think if Oliveira is able to keep it standing, then she's probably going to piece Demopolous up standing, probably to a decision. Oliveira's striking looked a lot better last time out. Demopolous just super hittable, right? She just charges in, doing an aggro thing, trying to get the clinch going so she can grapple, and she ends up just getting smacked in the head a bunch. She's very short, got short reach, and doesn't really have any ways of like closing the distance without getting hit in the face. So yeah, I'd expect Oliveira to win the striking minutes. Obviously, if they start grappling, if Demopolous can get on top, which is a big if because she's got terrible wrestling, but then again, Oliveira not that difficult to take down. She should be able to dominate the grappling. She's also live off her back. She's got a pretty tricky guard. She's subbed a bunch of girls from her back. So, and Oliveira is definitely not a good grappler. So that's something that could happen as well. We might see them just get into some weird scramble. Demopolous goes for a terrible takedown and ends up on the bottom or something like that. So I'd say Demopolous probably has most of the finishing upside. But as always, she's probably going to struggle to get it to the mat with her terrible wrestling. And until she does, she's probably going to be, outscored on the feet, I would imagine. What do you reckon?
Pretty much, man. I mean, I don't really want to add anything more. This was the fight I wasn't going to tape. I got dragged in to tape it, and then I'm pissed because I saw no leans, which I thought I wouldn't. So, wasted my time. I think there's not much value at Pick'em. I actually think Oliveira's improving, man. She's improving a lot. She's got a win in the UFC. Her striking's decent. Her get-ups are decent. If Baby Shark, Ricci, she was on top of her multiple times and she couldn't finish her, and I think her jiu-jitsu game is actually the top game, right? She's got to get into the mount. She's got a good knee on belly, right, and goes for nice arm bars. Vanessa Demopolous, whenever she gets her rare takedown, she sucks with the top control. Frey got up straight away. And I even saw Oliveira take down Della, right? And Della's got negative takedown defense herself. I just think there's not much value. I think Oliveira will be winning this fight on the feet consistently. She throws a lot more than Frey, for example. Frey got robbed because she just doesn't throw whatsoever. And then obviously, she can be taken down. Demopolous might take her down. My only concern is she took Della down multiple times, and Della has a good guard, and she just stayed safe. I don't know. Maybe she gets carried away and takes Vanessa Demopolous down, and that's the only way Demopolous can sub her, right? So who knows? It's just shit show fight. Let's move on. There's no value on either side. It's a pick'em. Might be a good live bet. I even thought about Oliveira by decision. It's horrible. It's not even plus 300. It's just disgusting. Let's move on. Some of these comments. What do we got? Parky. Sup, lads? Sup, Parky? I don't know if this is the Parky. It'd be pretty cool.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be. How are you, mate? Geezer asks, is that one? Let's hope so. How are you, Geezer? Should bet this fight, but can't. No,
you shouldn't.
I think you shouldn't bet it, mate. I think you've got that mixed up. UFC betting experience. Will you do a Bellator pod? I was going to, mate, but I think we might just do some leans at the end if you stick around, if we're on time. All right, I've got a busy week. I've got a comp next week, and I'm training tomorrow, so yeah, we'll see. Next fight on the card, Ricky Turcios, Kevin Natividad, another shit show. I thought about Turcios potentially being one of those plays like Brady, a sweaty, juicy play, but he's just a much better fighter than someone like Kevin. And then I realized I forced Turcios against a Zahabi a juice when I knew there was no value, and he made me pay by fighting like a moron. He's still a moron. He's always fought like that. He's hittable. He's not physical. He jumps for subs. I'm not going to force it here. I think the line is accurate. Natividad is now with fight ready. Surely he's going to be fighting a bit smarter. And I don't know how he's going to come out. Ricky's going to come out. So I'm just going to wait and live bet this fight. He's got the way better cardio if it's close. I know he's going to win round 3 potentially. So I'm just going to live bet this fight. Otherwise, pass for me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, man. Another pass for me because it's almost impossible to get a read here because we've seen like 2 completely different versions of Ricky Turcios in the octagon. I think if we get the vision coming off tough in the regionals, extremely busy, high output in every phase, then the line is probably accurate, because Natividad is pretty low volume, hesitant to pull the trigger. He's obviously got a bit of suspect chin as well. We've seen him turned off a few times. So yeah, but obviously last time out we saw Ricky Turcios against Zahavi just lay an absolute egg, right? Like he just went in the complete opposite direction from the fighting style that got him to the dance. He got hurt early by Zahavi, and maybe that kind of just like put him into his shell for the rest of the fight. But that'd be a bit weird because we've seen him in past fights, like take beatings and just get in absolute wars like the Brady fight, right? So yeah, really, really puzzling performance there. No idea what was really going on. One of those things where guys try to be capital T technical and pretty much abandon like all the good things that they do that got them to that point in their career. So yeah, I can't bet this fight, right? Because just if Turcios goes back to his old style, this line probably looks accurate and maybe even Turcios covers. If he doesn't and he goes into like a low volume like striking contest with Natividad, then Natividad can definitely hang, because technically he's not bad. When he decides to let it go, his boxing's pretty clean. He's a decent wrestler. Turcios doesn't have great wrestling, he doesn't really get on top of guys too easily who have decent wrestling, so I think it would most likely stay standing, and if Turcios isn't going to pump out the volume, then I see no reason why it shouldn't be close, but then obviously you've got the chin concerns on the Natividad side. So yeah, just a pass for me because just too many unknowns with what version of Turcios is going to show up and too many like red flags on Natividad for me to be super interested. He has that fight ready though. He's made the move over, so hopefully that's like a good look for him because I think he's a decent fighter. I think he's a lot better than what he's shown in the UFC so far, so I won't be betting him, but I kind of hope he at least puts on like a decent performance this time.
Indeed. It's a bit of a shit show fight. All right, let's move on. Next fight, we got Miles Johns versus Vince Morales. I'll go back to taking this one away. Another player I have, this one I timed a bit better than the other ones. I got Johns $1.70. Is on some bookies is $1.58. So quite a lot of steam on him, and still a couple of days to go. I just thought this was, I get a lot of the crap that Johns is getting, and he is a flake, and it is, I did fade him quite large against Castaneda, but it doesn't take away from the fact that, despite being a flake, the guy still hits very hard. He's got a big wrestling background. He's athletic, he's strong, and he came into the UFC 10-0, right? So it's, he will lose, he will flake out to a certain amount of a level of opponent, Mario Bautista and John Castaneda, who just constantly pressures and he's got underrated pop. We've seen what Castaneda's done to Wineland, and now it almost knocked out Santos as well. But yeah, there's someone like Vince Morales, who's, he's so untrustworthy. And just a little tidbit on the side, these two, I hate taping these two. These are like, and they put them in a matchup together. It's just, there's a lot of, it's kind of a theme for this card. A lot of LFA guys and a lot of guys that are just so bland, and I hate taping them, and I just want to gouge my eyes out. And it's probably the 1,700th time that I tape Vince Morales because he's in the UFC for so long somehow. So I have to keep retaping him every time he fights. So I had to do it again and watch his dreadful tape, Zahavi, Jesus, Draco Rodriguez. All right, just a lot of horrible fight. And he doesn't push the pace. He's got some decent power, but he's never to this day learned how to check leg kicks. Even though he lost the fight against Benito Lopez, and we've seen Benito Lopez, he's a bit overrated. Just someone like Batista just ran through him. He's always been like that. And he even dropped Lopez in the first, and he still lost the decision. And when the stats popped up on the screen, Benito Lopez threw like 5 strikes to the head in like 2.5 rounds. And he just won by just calf kicking him, just calf kicking constantly. And he's a boxer, and he's heavy on the lead foot. I mean, even if he pressures Miles Johns, Anderson Dos Santos was, he's just a typical prototype pressure guy with heavy hands. He was pressuring Johns, and even Kevin Natividad, who we just talked about, they're all pressuring him, and they got power, and they just couldn't corner him, right? They were just plodding forward, and they were getting leg kicked, and they were getting countered. Even Castaneda, every time he threw a jab at Castaneda, man, the guy was flying back. Like, Bisbin was like, man, that's some big power in that jab, and he wasn't even throwing at full power. So Morales is going to come, he's going to get leg kicked, he's not going to throw like he never does, right? I thought about playing him against Jonathan Martinez, and then 2 leg kicks in, and he just shut down. He's like, I can't get through these leg kicks, and he just shuts down. He's just going through the motions and just losing a decision. And it's just, he's going to pressure Johns, and every time he comes in, he's going to get hit hard. The leg's going to get chewed up. He's got wrestling in the back pocket. So I just think it's yes, very, very sweaty. This is the one that I haven't decided on. Like, I'm definitely keeping Silva. I'm definitely keeping Brady. Johns is, because Morales is so hard to get a read on. I'm going to have to retake Morales again, which killed me now. But I think this is one of those ones. Like, this is a levels fight. As many weaknesses as Johns has, he carries his power late. I think he's just gonna pick apart Morales, and he might slow down late. But I think at that point, Morales is his legs gonna be jacked, his power is gonna be diminished a bit, and that's when Johns will potentially wrestle a bit. I know a lot of people are scared because this fight is on short notice, but I mean, Jones accepted the fight, right? If Dana White calls you on short notice, you don't have to accept it, right? They don't care. Or he could have even reached out. A lot of times fighters reach out to the UFC. Hey, I'm in shape. I've been training. Let me take the fight. So, Jones knows he's got bad cardio. He wouldn't take this fight unless he was mentally prepared to get in there. So, I got Miles Johns at $1.70. It's got steam now. I'll have to look at it some more, whether I keep it or not. But I think it's going to be one of those levels fights, even if it's just marginal level difference. What do you think?
Yeah, I largely agree with what you're saying. I've decided to kind of approach it from a different angle, even though I largely agree with what you've said about how the fight's going to play out. I took the goes the distance at minus 150, so that's $1.67. I agreed. It's two guys that I'm not really excited to back, and Type's kind of hit it on the head there for me. I just wasn't looking to play Johns on the money line personally when goes the distance was kind of around the same price. Don't get me wrong, he could find a finish here, whether it's with the hands, but Morales has always been very durable to the head. Durable everywhere, to be honest, but obviously he just has issues not getting kicked in the legs. But the calf kicks could be a worry as well. But yeah, for me, I think Johns prefers a slow paced fight, even though he has finishes, he's generally not looking to push the pace of the fight. He kind of likes low tempo outside striking or to be on top. Now, I think he's going to struggle to hit takedowns on Vince Morales. Although I hate him as a fighter, he's got pretty serviceable wrestling. He's been difficult to take down throughout his UFC tenure. So I think we will just get low tempo striking for the most part, right? And obviously, Johns doesn't want to push a pace ideally. He just kind of wants to pick you apart. He wants to jab and calf kick. And Morales, no matter what happens, the guy will just not force a pace, right? Like you said, he's just going to accept whatever his opponent sets and he's going to go through the motions. So yeah, for me, I like the goes the distance just because round 3 could get close. John's on 2 weeks' notice. Yeah, he accepted the fight, but he's got historically very sus cardio. But I think he'll probably be able to pace himself here just because Morales isn't going to push it on him, right? He's moved from Fortis to Glory with Kraus as well. I think that probably makes him even a bit more GTD-ish because, we know the game plan that Kraus sends those guys out there to fight with. Johns' best weapons are his jab and his low kicks. So I think it should be a Miles Johns decision. But obviously if his cardio is not there, then, perhaps round 2 ends up being close if he starts to fade down the back half of that and maybe Morales can win round 3. Johns is pretty flaky as well. If Morales can find one good counter shot, that could turn the tide of the round. John's not very good at fighting from behind, as we saw how he melted versus Castaneda. Obviously, Morales is not Castaneda, though. But, I agree with most of what you're saying. I just kind of decided that I'd prefer to back the goes the distance at a similar price than John's money line myself.
Fair. I'm just a little bit cautious of the go the distance with the power that Miles has and obviously the flakiness of Johns as well. But, yeah, we agree. The only thing I don't agree is that Morales has good takedown defense because I've seen him take down Draco Rodriguez, Zahabi, Song. A lot of people took him down. Even Jonathan Martinez took him down in round 3 easily. So I think he's live to get taken down there. But let's move on. Alrighty. What do we got here? Nick Pearson. BigSteve lives up to his name. Righty, yeah. Don't tell anyone, mate. It's going to be a little secret, mate, between me and you. Okay, next fight on the card, Jennifer Maia Moroz. What a beautiful, beautiful fight. I guess this wouldn't be an LFA, unless it was a main event after both the ladies get cut. Unfortunately, I have to take this one away. It's wide. Let's be honest, it's wide. I mean, why is Moroz this much of a favorite? Maybe you can tell me. Coming off a win against Agapova, Buena Silva, who's got negative IQ and takedown defense, and obviously my laptop stops lagging. I can tell you who the other opponent was. Sabina Mazo, Jesus, the 3 bottom of the barrel women, they're just really, really horrible. She still lost round 3 to Mazo. She got the crap kicked out of her in round 3 against Buena Silva. And Agapova has always had a weakness to a ground game. We both hammered Robertson there. Just she's got good volume. She comes forward. She wants to grapple, but I get why she's the favorite. Obviously, Maia coming off the losses. There's a bit of recency bias in there. Maia never really looks amazing on tape, and it's one of the reasons why I'm hesitant to just play money on her. She's always got one takedown in her, like a one court kick. Her kicks get caught a lot, so she's got her kicks caught by Alexis Davis, by Liz Carmouche, by Shevchenko. Like, everyone's caught her kicks and taken her down. And sometimes she's a turtle. Other times she looks for the legs. She turtles up and scrambles straight back up, which I think that a lot of the time that's when she's losing. So she knows she can't play the guard game. I just think, she's got the better boxing, better power. Obviously, Moroz has the reach and whatnot, but her entries are really horrible. All her takedowns are in the clinch, and she just kind of bends into them. Right? She just thinks and just bends into them. And we've at least seen that if Maia can see it coming, she's really good at digging underhooks, and she'll keep you against the cage herself. If she turns you around, she'll keep you against the cage herself. Her wrestling's not the best. She got down Fiora, which was impressive. I was surprised by that. She kind of outperformed herself in that fight. I just think both these girls are not athletic. They're not physical. Maia's probably the more physical. Maia's got some good hands, more pop on her punches. She might end up on bottom, but she's going to get up eventually. She's not going to get finished. Right? She's never getting finished by anyone. She's a very durable black belt. And I think she can get on top of Moroz. I was impressed by Moroz's top game. Never in danger by Silva, who's got really good guard. I was impressed by her. If you go further back, I was impressed by her win over loss to Carla Esparza as well. She stuffed a few of Carla's takedowns, and she was threatening off the back. So Carla can look hindsight big favorite against a lot of these girls, but Moroz did okay. I just think either way, you're looking at 29-28. It's hard to have any confidence in Maia. I did play her for half a unit. It's something. But now I'm getting cold feet. Now I'm just thinking, maybe just cash that out and just look a quarter unit on my decision, and just, she wins, you're not annoyed. If she loses, you just lost a quarter unit on a clear value play anyway. So that's my play, mate. Just there's a value in Maia. There has to be. It's 29-28. I don't see how a 30-27 looks for Moroz. What about you, mate? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the other side. I like Moroz in this one. Basically, I just think she's got most of the top time upside. I think she's going to be shooting takedowns pretty reliably. Small cage. Maia's got no ring craft, cage craft. I think Moroz is probably going to be able to use her volume just to back her up to the fence, shoot takedowns. Maia's good at digging underhooks, but as soon as you get to her legs and connect hands, she's going down, and she's just a turtle. One takedown is probably going to be the round because Maia's just going to play guard, throw up arm bars off her back. I like what I've seen out of Moroz's top game, like you said. I understand, at first I was kind of in agreement. I was like, oh, this seems a bit wide. But then when I did the tape and I kind of just looked at the takedown dynamic, I was just like, man, I really don't see how Moroz isn't going to go out here and reliably just keep trying to put Maia on her back. And perhaps the only way that that comes undone is if Maia reverses and she ends up on top, which could definitely happen. That's a possibility. But for me, just the superior volume standing, she's more likely to be the one having, front foot going forward, those optics, putting Maia's back on the fence, shooting, taking her down. So, I think it's a Moroz decision at a decent clip, just because, Maia doesn't have the IQ past digging underhook. She doesn't know how to defend leg shots, and she doesn't even have interest in trying to get up, let alone knowing how to get up. She's just going to play guard. So, I like Moroz, personally.
Fair. I don't want to say good luck because I'm on the other side, so I hope you have horrible luck. Next fight, Zhalga Zhumagulov versus Charles Johnson. Not real takes on this fight. I think Zhalgas is always in the business of making fights closer than they should be. I don't think Charles Johnson is that great. He's pretty much a point fighting striker with good cardio that gives up takedowns, and he does well to work his way up. But it's just Zhalgas is going to make it close. He's got decent power as well. I had him against Molina. Did I get robbed? Maybe. I hedged anyway, so I didn't lose anything. But it's just the way he fights. He's He can't really consolidate any top time for a long amount of time. He won't be able to do that here, and he's constantly going to be at a volume disadvantage against Johnson. He just needs a couple of big shots, a lot of cage time, and he can potentially squeak out a decision. But it's just, you know, I can't. There's not much. I can't have any confidence in Zhalgas, right? It's just the way he fights. You know, his path is always a split decision. So it's a pass fight for me. I think Charles Johnson is a little bit juicy at these odds. I mean, he should be the favorite, I guess, based on the intangibles. Yeah, but I don't like anything here. Probably goes the distance. I can't play it. I'm still getting over my go the distance in the Bilal fight, so I'm going to wait a few more weeks before I start hammering any of these go the distance of juice. But yeah, probably look to live bet, look to jump on a robbery, but yeah, nothing for me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree, man. I got no interest in the money line. I think it's accurate, if maybe a little bit wide. But I understand why Johnson's the favorite. He's going to be quicker. He's just got those long range weapons, which he's going to be able to use to like poke at targets from distance and score points. His takedown defense is okay, but obviously he can be taken down easily, as we saw against Makayev and other fights. But he's got really good get-ups. Zhalgas can hit takedowns, but has really poor top control. So I doubt that he's like holding Johnson down, or his takedowns result in like any real amount of control time that's going to score. Like it's going to be those pointless takedowns where his butt hits the mat and he just pops up straight away. Zhalgas, yeah, like you said, his upside is a split. He's going to get jabbed and teeped a lot from distance here, I think, especially with the speed edge. He might find luck, like in the aggressive approach he's been using more recently, where he's kind of more happy to bite the mouthpiece and step into the pocket and, you know, sit down on combinations. But yeah, ultimately, I think it's probably Charles Johnson winning a 29-28, maybe a 30-27, you know, if sort of the length and the speed just proves too much and Zhalgas just can't figure out a way to get in over the course of the fight. But yeah, for me, no interest in betting money lines. To be honest, I think goes the distance. Yeah, I agree. Like could be short here, to be honest. Like I'm not sure how this one finishes. Both guys are super durable. I don't see either getting really any real top time. So someone would just have to like clip each other with like a peach of a shot, but we don't really see either guy hurt particularly often. Obviously, Zhalgas got done by cut, but he's a huge hitter for flyweight. So yeah, I might consider putting goes the distance in a parlay. We'll see how we feel about it later on. But yeah, otherwise a pass.
We might see Zhalgas fight like that again, like against Cup, because he's been robbed a couple of times.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you know what? This is my last fight on my contract. Boom, comes out again. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah,
the dude's got like 4 wives to feed as well.
Yeah, I heard 6, but that doesn't matter. That probably kicked the few to the curb. You know, less distractions for the last fight.
Yeah, he's only been getting show money, so it's down to 4.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alrighty, I'll do this one. The first fight of the main card, and then it's an even 2-2 for the rest of the card. So first fight, decent fight, despite the line being a bit average. Jack Della Maddalena versus Danny Roberts. I don't want to talk too much about it. I think they're trying to set up Jack. They're giving him Roberts, who's a bit of a step up, but he's also quite chinny. Jack's been out around 2, like twice in his entire career. And Lusa was one of them, who just insane durability. I just don't think Roberts has it in him. He's a bit flaky. He's a bit gassy. I did cash him against Amiv as a big underdog. Got a bit lucky there. He will fight for your money, but Amiv not a big hitter, more of a grappler. I think that the stuff that Maddalena does, you know, works the body, the pressure. He doesn't rush it, but the guy hits so hard, man. You can see that he hits hard, and he's been improving. Obviously, he's from Perth. All right, I was watching him on Eternal. Right, you were just on Eternal on Fight Pass a few weeks ago. So we're very familiar with this guy. He knocked out Alden Bates, who knocked out my best friend in his MMA debut. So revenge. We're watching that one with popcorn. So take that, Alden Bates, you dog. So yeah, he lost to Alden Bates in one of his first fights, and just in the rematch, he just sparked him, man. So the kid's improving. I think I'll be surprised if Roberts gets out around 2. If he does, it will just be like an attritional war where he's just going for takedowns and making Maddalena defend and scramble, and the clock will tick away. But yeah, I think Maddalena just eventually breaks him down. I will look at that. Points bet in Australia has Maddalena under 2.5 rounds. When that opens up, I'm hoping for $1.60. I'll probably hit that. But yeah, that's the only thing that's remotely playable. I was gonna look at the under 2.5. It was $1.40. It kind of reminded me of that 2.5 in the Reyes Span fight. It was $1.44. Ton of value. That should have been $1.20. But yeah, it got juiced. Because I had nothing to parlay with, so it's $1.30 now. So yeah, that's the only play I have. What about you?
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, it seems like pretty calculated and tactical matchmaking from the UFC. Like, Roberts is a perfectly fine fighter, but just in terms of the matchup, I think he's drawing pretty thin here, and that's obviously reflected in the price. Della's just going to bring the pressure, right? You said, yeah, like we're familiar with this guy. Like, when we were on Eternal with our guy a few weeks ago, we were in the same dressing room, and we were actually like having a bit of a chat to him and like watching him warm up his team and stuff. And yeah, like the dude's he's just so composed. He's gonna like put the high guard up. He's gonna walk forward and pressure. And Roberts is either gonna have to like back up and probably concede minutes, or stand and engage him in the pocket. And it's pretty hard not to see Jack Della winning, no matter which way that goes. The defensive grappling, the meme air shot, yeah, it's a possibility. Maybe if his aim is good enough. But it's just hard to see for Roberts, man. Like, once he gets in the firefight, he kind of loses his composure, but the chin flies up in the air. And Della's the complete opposite, man. He's so composed in the pocket. He's got great eyes. He rolls with shots. He's got sharp counters. So it's pretty hard not to see Roberts getting smoked at some point. I can already see him doing the chicken dance in my mind. But he'll compete though, because he's the longer, rangier guy. Like, he'll probably be able to kick Jack Della up from outside a bit, but in the small cage, it's probably just a matter of time until Jack Della gets it into the boxing range, and from there, I think he's just going to break him down. Like, the only thing would be if Roberts suddenly breaks out some like grappling out of his back pocket or something. Obviously, it's not something we've really seen from him before, to go out there and like dominate a guy with offensive grappling. That's kind of the only thing I could see, to be honest, because I think in most cases, if he stands with Jack Della for 3 rounds, he's just probably going to get knocked out unless he can somehow compromise the leg of a southpaw, or he just runs really good. But yeah, for me, I think I don't have any interest in backing Roberts as a dog. I don't have any interest in over-unders, just because Roberts' chin is so sus, he could die at any point. And obviously Jack Della KO props are juiced. So yeah, just all around a pass fight for me. Jack Della will be a fade at some point, I think. I think people got pretty lucky betting him against Ameve. He was in that very deep anaconda, and like just managed to gut his way out of it and then KO Ameve on the feet. But yeah, I think Jack Della's at the point now where we're seeing him priced pretty prohibitively. He's probably going to most likely get another big KO win here and then take another step up. And yeah, we might be looking at fading him next time out, potentially.
Indeed. I don't think that was luck. I think that was Jack's fight to lose. He's got really good. He's really patient in submission attempts, and he fought the hands when he got out of it. Whoa! This is annoying me. Why is the background like this? Come on, you fuck. Doesn't matter. Yep, let's move on. Next fight on the card. I have to take this one. No, this is you. Even better. Muslim Salikhov, Andrei Fialho. Pick and fight. I don't see any value. I thought about the under $1.70, which I thought was pretty generous, and then once I taped it, it's hard to play the under when one of the fighters is really fighting towards the over. Especially in that Leach fight. Just look for takedowns, get up, stay away, avoid, look to counter, and I guess you can rely on Fialho to come forward and make the KO happen, either to get KO'd himself or counter. But I just think his chin is quite decent. As they both get tired, it might be even less chance of a KO. So I ultimately passed. What about you?
Yeah, same. I was wondering if we'd get a decent price under the under 2.5, but it wasn't good enough for me. Just like you said, like Fialho does everything to fight for an under, Salikhov does everything to fight for an over. So it's kind of hard to balance those two out. Salikhov will do what he always does. Fialho will do what he always does. Fialho will come forward, try to bring the pressure. Salikhov will be on the foot looking for his counters. Fialho's most likely going to walk onto some of those counters. Very live to get slept early. Salikhov hits hard, and Fialho is very hittable. Like, seen Fialho finish a bunch as well. He is tough, but like there's only when you're a guy who's got no defense and you just walk forward and eat punches on the face, right? Like there's a fair bit, of equity in you getting knocked out. But Salikhov, I think, is really aging out now at this point. He looks super old and like wilty against Leach. He just kind of went off a cliff, like off one shot. So I think Fialho's pretty live to, if he can survive the early going, break him down later in the fight with the pressure. Salikhov's pretty wilty. I think his gas is pretty terrible. And if you can just keep getting into his range and crowding him, I think he's pretty live to fall apart. And Fialho's got decent pop of his own. So I'll probably just look to live bet Fialho or something like that. But yeah, no massive conviction on the fight, to be honest.
Cool. I think there's a lot of live bet fights on this card, which could be the saving grace in terms of the level and money line bets that we don't have. I think a lot of live bets. These low level fights potentially have a lot of live betting opportunities. Alrighty. Next one, taken away by you again. This is the only fight on this card I didn't tape. I've literally taped Waldo 2 weeks ago when he was meant to fight Jared. I passed on Jared there. I think Sherman is a bit of a step up from Jared personally, not much. I think he's going to go for the leg kicks more. I think Costa's leg is still compromised. I just think he took this fight because he's very broad, he's brash and confident, and a young guy that's fought like 8 times in a year and he's improving every time he fights. It just comes down to, it's a dog or pass, easy. The odds even worse than Bandera fight. It just comes down to, do you trust Sherman or not? And I just didn't even bother taping it because I don't know if I do. I just think he's so hittable, and I think he's less durable than Bandera, which is the problem here. So yeah, dog or pass for me. I didn't even look into it. What do you think?
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, just two guys who aren't very good, right? I lost on Jared against Waldo in his UFC debut. I mean, I think you're right that Sherman maybe will be more reliable to go to the head kicks, but at the same time, he's way flakier and less durable than Jared. I can see Waldo's hand speed just like getting him very flinchy and sticking his head up in the air and just getting real discouraged like we've seen him do in a bunch of his fights. So I actually bet some Waldo at like minus 160 when it came out, just because I knew it would move. So I'm probably just going to wait to see how far the line goes, and then I'm going to arb it off. I don't have any intention of riding it because this is just a shit show, like heavyweight fight. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any real strong thoughts. Waldo's live to sleep him at any point because Chase is fragile. He likes to quit. I don't think the guy's like much of a natural fighter. He's a front runner. I think once things get hard, he really looks for a way out, and he has terrible striking defense, the way he sticks his head up straight in the air. So for like a pure head hunting boxer like Waldo, I think that's pretty good. Sherman's probably going to be reliant on the low kicks here because he's not reliable to grapple and his hands are pretty awful. So yeah, I mean, just leg kicking is not enough for me to back like Sherman. Like at least with Bandera, I was like, oh, maybe there's some grappling upside. Obviously, he didn't realize it because he's retarded and he's Jared Bandera. But that's just completely like off the table with Sherman. Like it's pretty much just leg kicks. Like I would bet him by decision before I bet his money line because I would not be looking to like lay much money on him. I'd probably just make a real small bet on Chase by decision. But ultimately, I think head strikes versus leg kicks, I'll probably have to back the head strikes. So picking it, I think Waldo probably knocks him out, to be honest, just because Chase is so flaky and easy to land head strikes on. But if he gets the leg kicks going and then does a better job of it than Vendera, then maybe he can just take Waldo's wheels away and find a way to win through that. But yeah, not interested in backing it personally.
Cool. We're on the same page. What do we got here? Sherman gets out of position off to the opponent's right side. I mean, Waldo's strikes are so bad, but I think they'll be finding a target all night long against Sherman. That's the problem. Sherman
can't move his head.
Exactly.
As soon as you throw him, he just goes bolt upright.
That's one of the reasons I passed on Bandera, because Bandera is very hittable, and I thought, I even passed on the over. I regret that a bit, even though it was sweaty over. In round 2, they started absolutely brawling and he was limping. I was like, oh no. My friends that had the over, they were sweating a bit, but it still went over, But again, I don't trust Sherman. The over is like identical price. If they start swinging. Alrighty. Co-main event, Cutelaba, Kennedy, and Chiku. And man, these fights, They do not instill any confidence in you whatsoever. Just the whole theme of this card is favorites that are not really trustworthy. And I guess it's another dog or pass for me. But as the week went on, I'm kind of entertaining the option of playing Kennedy at juice. Kind of, not really. So don't jump on me just yet. I just feel like the reason I'm passing is, yes, because Ion will get takedowns. He'll get some good early, maybe even hit Kennedy, maybe get him to wobble around with the high guard and bounce off the cage. And then as the fight goes on, this is where Kennedy's just the jab straight. It's going to start wearing on Ion. The takedowns might be stuffed. Kennedy's impossible to hold down, which is what I think is going to gas out Cutelaba. I think it looks a bit like that. Who did he lose? Who did he get a draw with? Dustin Jacoby fight. Big round one, and then Kennedy just jabs him, and wins 2-3. But yeah, every time Kennedy fights, there's some craziness happens. Robberies, eye pokes, nut shots, and same as Cutelaba. And these two are like matched up in a matchup that's gonna potentially open up a black hole in the sky with all the shit that's gonna happen in the ring. It's just. Yeah, I feel like if anyone can take Kennedy down, Ion can. Right, we see Marquez take him down. I had him there as a dog, and I was sweating when he had his back taken. Nikolai took him down. But then there's a whole other... Stosic took him down multiple times. But then there's a whole other avenue that I've seen in Kennedy's new fight against Roberts, when you could see that he changed his game plan. I can potentially see him taking Cutelaba down as well when Cutelaba gets gassed. It's just there's a lot of avenues that this fight can go. Kennedy was so much better than Nikolai Meguranu, and he was piecing him up. I butchered that, right? And you got to be careful with those first few letters of Nikolai's last name, especially when we're talking about Kennedy and whatnot. And then I just, even though he should have won a 30-27, he still got robbed because he doesn't sit on his punches, right? So I can just see Ion biting the bullet, and like he did against Jacoby. Jacoby had the way better striking, but a half-dead Ion was still cracking him and potentially making the rounds close. So the whole fight is untrustworthy to me. The things I'm looking at is the over 1.5. It's a pick'em. It goes over, I think, a lot of time, maybe 60% of the time, only because Cutelaba is durable. Kennedy doesn't really hit hard. Kennedy's durable. He doesn't really have a submission game to punish Ion. But then on the other side, Cutelaba loves flaking, man. He just absolutely loves flaking, which is the scary part. And I also don't know how he's going to come out. Is he going to come out like a shit-eating wild man and potentially swarm Kennedy and get him out of there? Because obviously Kennedy doesn't like the fight. We've seen that before. As soon as he gets pressured, he just freezes a bit. Or is he going to come out slow and the under looks massive value? And the other thing I'm looking at is Kennedy by live bet. He survives the onslaught from Ion in the first, takedown, the few get-ups. He's a very slow starter. And then you live bet him when the odds are a bit better, and he's going to do his thing, jab straight to win a decision. So a few things I like, but not much confidence in anything. I just don't know how this fight's going to go. Really, every time we see Kennedy fight, there's a new wrinkle in his game. Do you have anything that's worthy in this fight or not?
No, not really. It's just hard one to read, like you said. Ion has like theoretical upside with how he starts fast. Wrestling, Kennedy's hittable, and we saw what happened with Zhang. But the guy's an idiot. He found a way to get like submitted by Johnny Walker and not like a club sub or a meme, like got out grappled, got his back taken and submitted. So that combined with, his poor defensive grappling combined with his bad cardio, bad IQ makes him pretty untouchable to me. Kennedy's defensive grappling is very good, very hard to take down, very hard to hold down. So I think if Cutelaba is trying to wrestle, then, he's not going to have much success. He's just going to get tired, I think. If he goes out there swinging, he can create a coin flip, right? Maybe he catches Kennedy cold like Zhang did. But again, if he doesn't finish Kennedy, he's probably going to get tired. And we've still seen Kennedy weather hell of a storm with like Ulberg and stuff like that. So I think the line's pretty accurate, right? Because like Ion just doesn't seem to really be able to win fights past like 7 minutes if a guy can like defend his grappling. which I think Kennedy can. So I understand why you're like contemplating laying the juice. Personally, I'm just going to wait to live bet, because again, we just don't know what version of Kennedy's going to turn up. Like, he could just lay a massive egg like he did against Jung, where he just puts his hands up and let himself get hit. Or he could look amazing, like we saw against like Robertson, where he went out there and just like out grappled him out of nowhere. Like, not super impressive because Robertson's a bit of a bum, but you know, it's just a new wrinkle to his game, like you said. He's definitely got edges, probably in, well, big edge, you would say, in cardio, and like past 7 minutes, you'd think it should be all Kennedy, unless he's just mentally checked out and just not doing stuff, which he does sometimes. But yeah, for me, I can't get past like 65% pre-fight, so I'm not going to bet him. I'll wait till live bet. Hopefully Cutelaba has a good round one, get some wrestling going, or maybe he's able to hurt him early on. But I think Cutelaba is pretty reliable to gas and find a way to lose. He's just a complete mental midget. So I'll look to live bet Kennedy.
Indeed, same. Yeah, after this chat, I've definitely decided to live bet. It's just you're making too many guesses. It's not worth it. All right, main event: Lewis versus Spivak. I'll take this one away. I think I'm seeing a lot of people saying Lewis is done and he doesn't care anymore, and you know, he's given up. And then I had to inquire and ask, well, where is this narrative coming from? Is this news from him? And it just seems to be the stuff that people are saying every single time Lewis fights. You know, there's this stigma that he doesn't train or doesn't care, blah, blah, blah. Right. But I just think this is a bit of a step up, quite a bit of a step up. I see people saying his chin's gone. Man, if you rewatch that fight against Pavlovich, the bombs that he took against Pavlovich, people don't stay on their feet after 3-4-6 punch combo from Pavlovich to the dome. Eventually he fell down and then just popped straight back up. Obviously the strike that he took against Tai Tuivasa, the punches that he was landing on Tai, Sergey Spivak's not eating those. I think Spivak's always had a problem with getting knocked out. I don't want to say he's a front runner, but he's just, you know, he gets the takedowns going and he's doing well. The fight's going great. When, you know, people start hitting him, start reversing him, that's when things start going bad. Big step up for him as well. I mean, taking down and running through Greg Hardy, not the best fight. And Jared Vanderaa, right? Carlos Felipe, right? Just, that was a close fight until he started wrestling in the third. I was on the over 1.5 against Augusto Sakai. I sweated a lot. Right, Sakai is a notorious turtle, and Sakai got up a million times against him. He had a lot of stand-up time. He also got gassed out from it as well. But you could see that Spivak was blowing heavy out of his mouth. I just think, you know, as soon as the fight got into round 3 against Olenek, he was just very, very gassed. He's lucky that Olenek pulled guard. That was 1-1 going into the third. It's just a rough fight, man. He's not athletic. He's there to be hit. He's got a nice 1-2, but he's a bigger speed at disadvantage against Lewis. Can he get takedowns against Lewis? Yes, he can. Anyone can. All right. You know, Lewis has been taken down by the best of the best. You know, Ivanov, Blagoy, you know, Tabura, all of them, right? DC, etc. Blades couldn't take him down. Go figure, of all people. But Blades was going for double legs, and you know, Lewis is kind of underrated balance when you go for double legs. If you get a single leg, he's tipping over quicker than you know, the man has been drinking for 17 hours straight. And you know, he was also susceptible to throws. You know, Blagoy was throwing him, which I think Spivak's going to do on him as well. Yeah, I just think the mixture of Spivak, he might be a little bit nervous here in his first main event. That's just speculation, and the fact that he can't hold anyone down. You know, he's gonna take Lewis down. Lewis is gonna pop up. He might have 2-3 opportunities. He might go into round 3 and Spivak might be tired himself. And, you know, they're both gassed. And we know that Lewis carries power late. It's a small octagon. You know, Spivak might be a bit claustrophobic, not being able to run away. He's going to look to clinch. His entries are also a bit average. He just kind of wants to grab on as soon as he can. Not really set up properly. It's just, you know, Lewis is going to be waiting for that. It's not the most confident play. You know, it's Lewis. He's always losing until he wins. But I got a good line on the KO. I got $3.50. It's quite a bit of a difference from his money line. So on Bet365, he's 262, and his finish is 280. So 25 cents better. But 340, that's, yeah, I got a big difference on the KO. So I'll put a quarter unit on Lewis KO. That's it. You know, I've got action. I think this is a step up and step down for both guys. It's a no-brainer. In a way, it's a bit of a tough matchup for Spivak, in my opinion. Obviously, it's not Tom Aspinall, but I think he's got a bit of a fight on his hands. I can also see Spivak getting out there and survive, getting on top rounds 2, 3. Lewis getting absolutely tired and then just giving up to the ground and pound. But Spivak's not the best submission grappler. It's all ground and pound. Lewis is very durable. He's just going to be able to turtle up and stand up as he's hitting ground and pound shots. So yeah, a little sprinkle on Lewis KO. The unders are unplayable. I think this can go late. But yeah, give me Lewis all day long. One last KO before the sunset. He still sounds motivated to me. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, double pass. Can't trust Spivak at this price. He's gassy. He doesn't really have any potency in his offensive striking. His takedowns are pretty bad. It's a lot of body lock and judo throw stuff, which I imagine is going to be pretty difficult on Derek Lewis. He's just got terrible reactions and terrible optics to getting hit. He's a bit wilty on the feet if you're able to start cracking him. I just don't see why Lewis can't compete in this fight. I think especially if the takedowns aren't coming easily, which I don't really think they will, especially early on. I just don't understand how Spivak is almost 70% implied here when he's historically been pretty vulnerable to these power punching types who, if they can defend the takedown and keep it standing, really seem to give him some issues. So I think Lewis moneyline KO are probably the ways to bet it. If you're looking to bet Spivak, you'd probably just wanting to look at the later round props or just look to live bet, because he's going to need takedowns probably, to win this. It's very hard to see how he looks a favorite without getting takedowns. And like you said, his top control is not good. Lewis has his just get up thing where he'll just bench press you off. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis is able to get up, a couple times. And then that's what he's really good at doing, right? Timing guys as they come in and try to take him down. So yeah, for me, Derek Lewis, I haven't bet him yet, but I think I most likely will end up on some action on his money line or by KO. Hopefully the money line keeps getting wider and you can get a nice price there. Just a bit of a wonky line to me. I think Spivak needs the ability to get easy takedowns in top time to be able to cover a line like this, and I just don't really think it's the case.
Nice, we're on the same page. Yeah, as the week goes on, I'm kind of more and more confident in that KO bet. It seems like a lot of people are saying that they're trying to set Spivak up by giving him a name, but Derek Lewis, this is a clear step down for Lewis to get a win, in my opinion. Whether it works out, I'm not sure, but yeah, it is what it is. I just want to address this comment. Lewis meme master cost me so much over the years. Now, the man with the most knockouts in UFC history, I don't know if you can call him a meme master. He's obviously got a damn pat. Now, I gained a lot of respect for Lewis when he lost me money against Curtis Blades. I had the over 1.5. He looked to be cruising. And then after he knocked out with that uppercut, he's like, that's all we planned for in camp. I was going to not throw for 5 rounds, just waiting for the uppercut. So it's like there's method behind his madness. That's why he's always not throwing, just sweating around the octagon, just waiting for one punch. He knows what he is, right? He will get taken down by Spivak. He will lay it on his back for 5 minutes. He'll rest because he knows round 2, I've got another 5 minutes to try and land that punch. So he's just a master of his craft, mate. He just knows what the fuck he's doing. Lewis has good ground game. He says, of course he does, man. You can see it. Black belt. Lewis round 1, 2, 3. Honestly, I could see this finishing in 4 and 5. We've seen it before. Lewis is just carries late. Yeah, I mean,
Spivak's going to be tired later on. If it gets there, they're both going to be tired if it goes there.
Could be another live bet. I mean, the state that Spivak was in against Olenek, Lewis can KO that Spivak, even if he's half gassed. I mean, he won rounds the whole fight against Latifi because he had more energy than Latifi to throw down. He was throwing flying knees in round 3, right? So the only thing I'm kind of scared about is if Lewis can somehow win a money line fight, straight fight, like he did against Blagoy and Latifi. But yeah, all right. Let's. We didn't do too bad on time. Let's do some best bets. I know it's slim pickings. I'll go first. I actually have some bets. Lewis KO, I like. Brady, I've kind of talked myself into it. Johns, no, I don't think that's going to be in there. It's either going to be between Lewis KO, Silva, or Brady. Silva can look super square, and then I feel like if she loses, I'll be coming back next week, seeming like an idiot for playing a female juice and then the whole the thought process behind the Big Brain podcast goes down the drain. But I'll definitely be keeping the play. So I think Lewis KO is my favorite bet. Just I think there's so much value there. Value City 340, and Brady's my second favorite. So I honestly like those bets. Slim pickings, but sometimes I feel more comfortable, with these slim pickings. I feel like they both hit, and that's it. Call it a day. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Slim pickings, like when you're looking at women's MMA juice, is your best bet. You know that it's a pretty dire slate. I like Bellator a lot more this weekend for best bets. But if I have to pick, I'll take the GTD and the Johns Morales, and then I guess second would be Moroz. I think just over Silva, just because like the Silva fight, there's just more potential for like random unknown improvements and shit that we haven't seen to pop up. I feel like we have a pretty good idea of who Moroz and Maia are. So if I get it wrong, it's just because my read was shit, not because there's some random stuff that I didn't see on tape.
Cool. All right. Speaking of Bellator, what do you got, mate? I don't think I'm going to do a podcast, so let's just give the people some thoughts.
All right. Let's pull up the card. There's a few that I liked. Go the other way. Bellator.
I'll jump on it now.
Yeah, sorry, my laptop's shitting itself. There we go. All right, so if we go bottom to top, I like the over 1.5 in the Hokit and Nader fight. Definitely some unknowns, right? Hokit's had 2 MMA fights. This one, he got put out really quick on the feet, which was pretty hilarious because like he's a ridiculously juiced fave. That was funny. And then the second one, he fought that Fedor Makuka, who's like one of the worst fighters to ever do it. Like the guy makes Claudio Puelles look like fucking, I don't know, who's got like the biggest heart in the UFC. That Makuka is just a flat out bum. Like he's such a quitter. Pretty much put himself in an arm triangle, turned over, gave his back, and like tapped as soon like the second Hokit connected his hands on the rear naked. Makuka was tapping. From what we've seen from Nader, he's like scrappy kid. Looks like pretty built. He's pretty compact. Hokit a little bit bigger at the weigh-ins though. So Nader will be a little nuggety guy trying to come forward, get in the pocket and throw hands. I just ultimately think he's probably giving up takedowns here. We've seen him wrestle offensively a bit in his fights. He's been put on his back as well. I just think most likely this goes over 1.5 a good chunk of the time because Hokit's probably getting takedowns and just working in the guard. If he can avoid a guard sub, which Nader does have, he's got a triangle choke win. But, Hokit looked pretty serviceable on top against Makuka to me. So I think I got it at like a minus 145 or something like that. I thought that was pretty good value, to be honest. I think it might have moved a bit now. But to be honest, I think that's still good. And then like goes the distances out there for that fight at like plus 185, plus 200-ish. I didn't bet that, because I don't want to like give away any over profits if it finishes in the second half. But I think that's most likely got a value to it as well. Then a whole bunch of squash matches, just insanely Bellator card. I haven't taped these ones yet with the big favorites. Maybe some under 1.5s that are like minus 250 that should be minus 400. You never know. We'll get some tape. But the next one I like is Achilles Moser over Jairo Pacheco. He's about minus 170 at the moment. I think standing is fairly even, fairly competitive. I'd probably say Moser maybe hits a little bit harder, and he's obviously just fought way better guys. Level of competition is just not comparable, He's fought so much better guys. Jairo's fought pretty low level Brazilian regional type stuff. But the grappling's where all the upside is, man. Like Jairo is a terrible grappler. His offensive takedown's not good. He's not taking down Motor. Defensively, very easy to push on the cage. Gives up easy takedowns. He'll do dumb things like going for guillotines and stuff, which makes it easy to put him on his back. And once he's on his back, he's a turtle. He gives his back super easily as well. I've seen him give him his back a bunch on regionals to like these like fat, out of shape Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys that he's fighting. So Motor's pretty reliable to grapple. He mixes it in pretty much all of his fights. So yeah, I think as soon as he realizes how easy the grappling is, he should be able to blow Pacheco out in the grappling pretty comfortably. Motor's also a tough guy. He's durable. He's not easy to put away. The only weird one was the Derek Anderson fight, which was a weird like quitty thing where I thought he was going to get a DQ, but ended up being a TKO. But regardless, I like Mota here. I think it's just a big levels fight. If we move on up, next one's Trichelli. Obviously, Roman Faraldo has been on like a big run through Bellator, but he's probably had like one of the softest runs ever. They've just been feeding him absolute cans. First time fighting a warm body here, I got early line on Trichelli, like plus 220, so was more than happy with that. You know, could be pretty competitive striking fight. Maybe Faraldo can grapple, but he's super untested, like in the later parts of a fight, and has never gone through any adversity. So I'm more than happy to take a shot on the guy who's been tested against way better level of competition. A bit of the over 1.5 as well, just because I think it's competitive, and like maybe Faraldo puts him out, but plus money on the over 1.5 I thought was good. And then same strategy the next fight, the dog in the over 1.5, Daniel James in the over 1.5. I just think that's going to be a really slow-paced, low-volume fight, as all Fortune fights are, and James fights tend to be that way as well until someone gets hurt. So I think James can beat standing. Fortune might try to wrestle. James not easy to take down. Probably in trouble if he does, because he's probably a bit of a turtle, just because he's massive. So it's going to be hard for him to get up. But yeah, Tyrell Fortune, I don't think has a big volume edge, doesn't have a big power edge, doesn't have a big cardio edge. So just no idea why he's such a massive favorite. You know, I understand him being the favorite, of course, but I think the line's massively wide. So it took some Daniel James money line, took some over 1.5 as well, because I think it's just going to be like very low tempo heavyweight stuff. And yeah, like takedowns won't come easily. You never know. Obviously, one could get put out on the feet, but that's about it. And then that's it for the card for me so far. Still looking at a few other fights though, maybe the overs and the Usman fight, but just not sure. I can't see any playable angle in the Corey fight. And then yeah, the rest of the fights I need to take them because I've kind of left them till last. Yeah, that's what I got.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of these squash matches I'm not even bothering to take because sometimes I get the under 1.5s, like on that Gibson fight on Bet365. Other times I don't. It's the day before and there's no lines other than the main card, so there's no point in wasting my time. I don't think there's any dogs there. The favorites are unplayable. So in terms of my next, the Nader fight, the Isaiah Herkit, I just have so many questions. I mean, this Nader guy seems to finish out. I don't know. I don't know if he'll go over. Probably goes over by Herkit wrestling, but it's hard for me to tell. Kilis Mota, Pacheco. I kind of wanted to play Pacheco as a dog, but you know, if he's getting grappled, there's a lot of these Bellator fights are like, you want to play the dog, but there's something stopping you. That's how I feel. See you, Robert. You're full of jokes today, mate. Everyone. Yeah, the Alia fight, didn't even bother taping it. Roman Faraldo, I'm on Trichelli with you. I'm not as confident as you. It's just, it seems like one of those ones where Faraldo might get a step up and he might prove that he can handle the step up. We just haven't seen it. But it could also be wide. I mean, Trichelli is proved that, you know, he can go 3 rounds and he can, you know, he's been in there with the best of the best in Bellator, and you know, Faraldo hasn't. So it could be a hindsight great play. Really close on Daniel James. I'm glad I didn't play it because the line got even better. Just a big, durable, super heavyweight guy that cuts weight to heavyweight, and Fortune is just very flaky. The only reason I haven't played him is because Daniel James gets a lot of his best work done on top, and his takedowns are top-heavy clinch takedowns where he muscles people down. I don't see him taking Tyrell Fortune down. Obviously, that beast, keep forgetting his name now, the English person, just muscled him down, but I think he can take any down in the world. What's his name? Linton Marcel took Fortune down, but that guy has a body lock of, best body lock I've ever seen in my life. And obviously better jiu-jitsu. I think, you know, how much money do I want to put on James, who's like 40, 41 years old? And whenever it's a 3-round striking battle, he tends to lose. You know, he lost to 2021 Daniel Emelianchik, which is a big red flag. He lost to the Blackbeard guy that got robbed against Emelianchik in KSW. He got dropped by him. Then actually he got on top and Crucifix KO'd him. But man, he looked like he had 60 kgs on him. It's just a big difference in size. So I still want to hit him, James, because I feel like Tyrell Fortune most likely wins a decision based on having the faster hands, a close decision where James doesn't get knocked out. But then I'm also like, maybe James can knock him out. You know, just Fortune could be chinny. You know, ever since I seen that Johnson fight, I have it in my head that maybe he's flaky / chinny. So I haven't played it yet, but Also looking at the over, but I would be very annoyed if I pass on James and I play the over and then James somehow meme KOs Fortune in the first round. You'd be like, damn, I should have just gone with the dog. So yeah, both those fights, both those lines I like. Just not much confidence behind them. But it's on the main card and I got live betting, so maybe I just live bet it. Other than that, Daniel Vachel, Timur Kizriev. I kind of like Kizriev by decision, $1.90. It's a bit juicy. He's just going to do what he can to beat Old Mate. But Vachel has good takedown defense, so I don't know. Not much conviction. I do like the overs, like you mentioned, on people. Usman. He's got a lot of... this is a big step up. Yeah, I mean, maybe not a big step up, but it's a step up. He's never fought anyone like Pitbull. And, yeah, I mean, $1.60. $1.60 for the over 1.5. I'm really tempted on that. I just think Usman's going to do his kicking game from the outside, and Patricki's going to look to counter, and it's going to be a very low output affair for at least a couple of rounds. So I haven't laid the juice there yet, but I'm contemplating it. And, yeah, I can't play the main event, right? I think Nemkov looks better than the first fight. Maybe he doesn't. Just a bit of a scary fight. I'm surprised by the fight doesn't go to this decision. It's minus 200. That's a bit generous, don't you reckon? When it looked like Anderson was clearly on the way to knocking out Nemkov, and he still had more than 2 rounds to go, and he was gassed, and he's got crazy ground and pound, and he was swinging for the fences as well. He cracked Nemkov a couple of times. Also covers a Nemkov KO. But minus 200 over 5 rounds, I thought that was very, very generous. So I'm either going to parlay that with something, but yeah, it's caught my eye. I saw it and I was like, oh damn, I might even play that straight. Put a unit on it, win half. And I just don't see. I guess the only way I can see this going over is Anderson sitting on him for 2 or 3 rounds and not finishing him. But the guy has good ground and pound, So yeah, not much, man, not much. At the moment, I only have Chikeli for like a quarter unit, and that's it. Nothing really. I was gonna play the Otto guy, Rodriguez Otto, against that fraud Russian, but I got pulled today. Have you looked into LFA or not?
Nah, haven't had the chance to get to any LFA yet. I was just doing Bellator first. I kind of had a skim through the lines and nothing stuck out to me at first glance. So yeah, no, I haven't really got to it yet.
Cool. I'll do it after this podcast. Other than that, thank you very much. That was good, man. Like and subscribe, everyone. BigSteve, Kappa Scrap on Twitter. Thanks to everyone in the chat. That was a fire chat, as Old Mate said. Thanks for Geezer and everyone that popped in. Parky, do you have anything to add, mate?
No. Thanks everyone for watching and joining in the chat. It was good.
Don't just copy me, mate. Come on. Nah, it's all good. Good luck, man. Good luck. Hopefully a good weekend. I'm going to do some tape on... I might do Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors is after the UFC, isn't it? On a Sunday. It's a bit weird, this card. Yeah, strange. UFC starts at 4 a.m. for me, so the whole card will probably be over by 9. So I can probably still... If I stay up somehow, I can tape Cage Warriors. So I might do a podcast, so stay tuned for that. Parky, good shit, guys. Thanks. Respect your opinion either way. No worries, mate. No worries. Hopefully no memes this weekend, Parky. Other than that, have a good one, guys, and I'll see you soon.